Welcome to Bullets and Brass. I'm your host today, Remy, the only host. Today we're doing grip, and this is handgun specific and really focused on practical as opposed to competition grip. There's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of things that the carry world has learned from the competition world. Certainly in the last 15 years, the accumulated knowledge of the competition world in how to hold a gun, how to shoot rapidly and accurately has grown tremendously. Let's start with the basics. Use two hands. I can't say it enough. Use two hands. One hand is I haven't had time to get my second hand on the gun, or my second hand isn't available. I'm holding somebody, holding on to something, I'm injured, I don't have a second hand because I'm disabled, something. It's the only reason not to have your second hand on the firearm is because it absolutely is not an option. So we're going to start off with the 1911 because this is my EDC and I'm the most familiar with it. So I start off, I put my hand all the way at the top, okay? This is a pet peeve of mine for movies and TV shows. You see people holding them down here like this. That's because they grabbed the gun like this. They started out like this when they picked it up. And they didn't know any better. Their instructor never showed them any better. And then they go like this and they try to pull the trigger. I guarantee they shoot low. I get my hand all the way up. I'm pressed up in there. See? Pressed up. Settle it into my hand. Okay? I've got the meat of my hand around the back. It is in line with my arm. Now your second hand. What do you do with this other hand? Now here's where it gets tricky. Your second hand, okay, because the proper grip on this assumes you've got the safety. Okay, so my second hand comes in here and presses these fingers into the grip and presses the palm into the remaining part of the grip. So if I've got a double stack and I've got a little less of a hold, my fingers are out here. I've got more of that grip I can use. I've got a single stack here. I get a little more of my hand around. Okay, so I'm going to take my palm and press it in and wrap those fingers around. Usually people drive the gun into the hand. You're drawing the gun up and you're driving it into this hand and holding. Now you can see my thumbs, right? My thumbs are in line with where I'm going. So I've got the safety. I'm pushing the safety down and my thumbs are pointed at the target. They're pointed downrange. This is a really good way to index them. It keeps them out of the way. It keeps you from tucking this one over here because that's a very bad thing to do. You will bite it with the slide when the slide comes back. If your thumb's over the top and the back, it's gonna hurt. Lined up, okay? Now here's the other trick. Squeeze. It's less about the squeeze this way and more about the squeeze this way. So what you're doing is you're sandwiching it. You're getting a sandwich going where it can't go anywhere. If you start out with even pressure on both sides, you're just squeezing. Not 100% of your force. You don't want to be squeezing as hard as you can because you'll start to shake. But enough. You don't want to be loosely holding it. You want to be squeezing snugly enough that things aren't moving. Squeeze. Aim, squeeze, straight back. Now, that's one of the reasons you don't want to be gripping front to back in a death grip. Because this front to back death grip, A, it twists the gun, but B, it's very hard to carefully pull the trigger if your other fingers are death gripped. In fact, your odds are you're going to smack the trigger because you're going to clamp all your fingers down. You don't want to do that. Now, checkering, adjust how hard you have to hold to get a different level of security. I always hold roughly the same. I kind of just lock down and that's it. I'm not squeezing so hard I start shaking, but I'm squeezing hard enough that I hold that long enough. Yeah, I'm going to start to have a little tremble. It works. You gotta try it out for yourself. Figure out what works. Now, a revolver is a little different. Now this varies. Different revolvers have different grips, but on a J-frame revolver like this, you really want your hand way up here. Okay, it kind of feels like you should be back here. Let's see, down lower, because that kind of lines up your trigger finger. Okay, that's not right. There's a reason this trigger has such a curve in it and it's kind of angled upward. The reason is you want to put your hand all the way at the top. Okay? I've got the webbing of my hand at the top of the grip. And what's going to happen, okay? So I've got the webbing at the top of the grip and I'm going to pull. And what's going to happen is it's going to try to come back. And my fingers down here are going to fight that leverage with it as the pivot point. I want that pivot point as in line with the bore as I can get. The higher I am, the better. Now, obviously, I can't be above that. I'm going to get bit by the hammer, okay? But don't be down here. Don't be way down there. Be as high as you can get. It works wonders. Now, same thing. I don't wrap the thumb around on a revolver. You can. People do it all the time. I am a believer in doing it the same way every time. I tuck my thumb, okay? I tuck my thumb down here on the frame under the cylinder. Be careful if you have a shorter cylinder or really long thumbs. You do not want your thumb ahead of that cylinder. You will get burns and little shrapnel from that gap, okay? You want your thumb back. But the same thing, I'm tucking my hand in and I'm wrapping these fingers and I'm squeezing side to side. Now, really on this one, the grip is a little too small for that to be comfortable, but I'm still doing it. Because my fingers wrap all the way around. I mean, I'm almost back to the grip, right? I'm just locking those fingers down. That's it. I'm locking them down. I'm securing the whole grip. I'm actually pressing my palm and my fingers. I'm squeezing my other hand into place. Now, does it do this perfectly? Does anybody ever do this perfectly under stress? Not really. You get as close as you can. Muscle memory. That's why you practice over and over and over, getting up into that grip. Over and over, over and over, over and over. You do it a few thousand times and it starts to become habit. It starts to feel correct. I honestly can't tell you how many times I've presented this from the holster, lined up, put it back in the holster, line up, put it back in the holster, line up, put it back in the holster. Boom, boom, boom. And it becomes second nature. It becomes something you don't have to think about. If you're thinking about that, you're not thinking about what else is going on. I got one other thing, and I'm going to put it in here, but you're not going to be able to see it too well because I'm wearing a hoodie, and I'll discuss it later in another video. But this is one of those tricks that they've learned from competition over the years. It's not this. This is important. But look where my elbows are. My elbows are aimed down. Okay, my elbow is right here, the point of my elbow. The gun can pivot upward, right? If I turn my elbow out, I can't, if I pivot my elbow, it goes this way now. Okay, see my point is over here. The gun pivots this way. If I've got two hands on the gun and my elbows are out, the only option the gun has is my whole arms and shoulders. It has to move all of me, okay? elbows pointed, and you're almost making a like a recoil assembly. Okay, you keep those out there, and the whole thing will come up and back down, in a much more controlled format. It feels awkward as hell when you start doing it. But the difference in how fast you recover between shots, dramatic. Practice it. You just have to practice it, is all I can say. So anyway, take care, have fun, stay safe, y'all. Keep shooting.